This is my old poly hairpiece that I had on earlier this morning on day 23 or 4. It had just lost so much hair because look at the original size of it. I'd cut away so much. It had just been molting. I've been pulling them out, but they just fell out on their own really. Even the hairbrush in the shower is just getting worse. I get the feeling that there's a very thin layer that they stitch into and then they cover it over the back with a piece of plastic, creating a sort of a seal that keeps those hairs from even protruding through on the other side. So that's what I'm supposing happens in the manufacturing process. So I went back in the box and I couldn't be bothered doing a haircut or anything. I just wanted a casual thing. So I just took out the old lace piece that I've got here. It was extremely easy to place. You can't see the join. Whoa, somebody just fucking attacked me. They must have annihilated themselves. Fuck. Yeah, I'm playing Risk. That's bad. I don't like it when it's that screen. Look away for 5 seconds. It was your fault! Anyway, lace seems to have some benefits. The main reason I think I choose not to wear lace predominantly is because I don't want that glue shining through at the front hairline. Because poly's starting to feel like a bit of a pain in the ass to me. You know, without ventilating it, you know, putting holes through it, you can't stop yourself from massively sweating underneath it, which is all hidden, but it's not as comfortable to know that you're sweating underneath. This poly hairpiece around the join here, it just feels a lot, well, it doesn't feel any different. I mean, it's thicker. This lace hairpiece is actually thicker in terms of the base material is thicker than this thin poly, but it's really easy to place. It melds nicer with the perimeter, which for that reason alone, I might have to go back to it. I've just been on the phone to Lord Hair last night. Nancy is the lady in charge of customer service. She's looking into whether or not she can replace the 3 hair pieces I bought, which were lace, but they were a lighter brown. I wanted the darker brown with poly. That's what I sent them back to them for, to exchange it for poly. But just after this little experience, I mean, it's not extreme summer yet, but we'll have to see what happens. I mean, you can see the degradation. You know that dirty line you can get from lace. You don't get that with poly. But you do get a line with a shadow with lace. I'm sorry, with poly. It creates a shadow. There's no daily cleanup required or anything, which is huge, like much less maintenance, but it doesn't meld into the design of a human head as well as lace does. It looks plastic, and it is plastic. You know what, so on this occasion, I started at the back. You might remember on a really old video, not really old, but I put this lace hairpiece on without, you know, trimming around the edges or anything. I put it front first and then try to place it back and try to do it backwards. That was a really stupid idea. So now I've done it the right way around. I've put the back on first and then push this down. And it seems like I've met the edge requirements back here all along the outside, because I can't see any joins or gaps or anything. And then now it seems to go beyond where I want it to land. Like, that's the top nub there. Let's mark it. Here, look. So that's the top nub where my hairline should land, right? So this hairpiece is going down a bit too far. I'm not sure if I should just stick it there. I think it's easier actually to trim it after I've glued it, so I might just let it go. I might just let it be big and then pick off all the excess glue later on. It seems to be landing exact, although for some reason, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, so I want to spray water in my hair. So we saw that in this example, because it was molting so much, this potentially dud poly unit only lasted 3 weeks. And if you know me, you know I don't usually rewear an old piece anyway. I was just showing you that it could be done, but I was wrong. just chuck them out. 3 weeks and chuck them out. You can see how it could have been prolonged to 2 months with that piece. If the hairs hadn't been falling out. Oh, that's the other reason I got rid of this piece that I'm wearing. It's just the dirty line was giving me the shits, and also the hair was cut weirdly. So what I want to do is just place down some tape markers so I can just get the glue right. Somebody commented that this type of paper tape doesn't stick to your forehead properly, but I haven't really, I'm not sweating, but yeah, when you're not sweating, it does stick to your skin. And I'm a very sweaty person, okay? So if it works for me, it'll work for anybody. Yeah, that over there, that's way too low, isn't it? I'm gonna have to cut some of that out. So I'll just glue it there and I'll I'm gonna go all the way up to the edge of the hair there. I'll let that be excessive and cut that off afterwards. The rest is stuck down. It's just a lot easier when most of it is stuck down to grab an edge. See, a lot of this as well seems too much. This is the brand of tape I'm using. Saint-Gobain. Saint-Gobain tape. It's got a picture of a bear on it. Just make sure it's really pressed down so the brush doesn't accidentally go underneath it. See where the glue is up to now. It's been laying on its side, so it's probably squished up higher, but it's up to about there. So when I unscrew the lid, now the brush can make just the tip, right? So that's all the glue I can get. So I've got to put it on its side and then get it all over the stick and everything, make a big mess. Because they didn't design the bottle properly. It seems logical to go from the tape upwards so you can't inadvertently flick up the tape and get glue underneath it. Because underneath it equals forehead. And I don't want glue all over my forehead, which is why I've got tape in the first place. By the way, if you're new to this and you've probably heard of tape instead of glue, that's not what this is. They're talking about double-sided tape that would stick to both the hair and the scalp. This is just temporary marking tape so I can glue this adhesive, which is Walker Tape Ultra Hold, in a line that won't exceed where I want it to land. So I didn't know what this process is called, so I just call it tape marking. And I've sort of thought, maybe that's a bit confusing for people. Why did I, somebody who invents words, have to fucking confuse you all by calling this tape marking instead of something else marking? Sorry, I just couldn't think of anything else. Because people will probably get confused with tape marking and tape adhesion or something. So there will be an excess there that I've got to chop away, because I thought that was just coming way down too low. So I've only glued to where I think it needs to land, and then I'll chop off the excess. So just give me a few minutes to let this dry. That's better. Okay. Dry. Why did I turn that light out? Because the fan was making excess noise, I think. See how even that line of glue is because of this tape marking? You don't have the advantage of poly, where you can just glue directly onto the poly, so this is the alternative if you have to use lace to try to get that front nice and perfect. Now, as I've told you, I've put less glue than this flap here, and maybe a couple of other spots. But it's okay because I intend to cut those bits off. You can see how frayed the front edge is, but that's okay. At least it's natural compared to poly, which is a straight line, which is the reason you kind of got to stagger the front with poly. But when you've got poly that has hairs missing, it becomes quite obvious, I think. The discoloration issue that I faced with the poly at one point, I think, was due to water retention. I've been weighing up the pros and cons of lace and poly for a couple of years now. I still can't figure out which one's better. I think appearance-wise, at the perimeter, definitely lace is the clear winner around the perimeter. At the front hairline, lace, when it's clean, it can more easily look better. But, you know, poly doesn't really get that dirty line each day that lace does. So poly kind of wins a little bit in the front hairline department, which is the most difficult for maintenance. When it comes to putting it on, lace is kind of easier because you can sort of see through it to where you're placing it, whereas poly sort of blocks your view. Don't worry, I'm not just going to guess how to cut that up. I'm just going to stick it all down, brush it back. I'm just getting these really frayed bits at the front while I still have an opportunity to get them more easily, while still being cautious about dropping crumbs into the glue here. And it's harder to get the glue out of the lace, obviously. So lace might be more of a use it once then throw it away kind of scenario, but since that's what I just did with poly anyway, then there's no disadvantage to using lace in this instance. Okay. And also these straggly hairs all over the place and underneath and everything. With lace is a lot worse than with the poly. So long as the knots are bleached with lace, it can be a lot better. This is a very, very thick density. I don't know why it's so thick, but it seems heavier than medium. But then again, it might just be medium, I don't know. It's maybe because I haven't used lace for a while, and I've just assumed that poly is sort of medium, but maybe poly's a midway between medium light and medium. So under normal circumstances with something like a water-based glue, with lace, there's no protection to stopping this getting wet when you're just putting your hairpiece on, and you need to wet it simply to style it and everything. But with an acrylic glue, it doesn't really seem to care too much about water. So even though this is not poly, and there is water going through into the glue point where it's supposed to remain dry, it's not going to be a massive issue. And back up here, this join, these lines at the perimeter. In the mirror, I can't see any obvious kind of disconnect, so instantly I'm happy to go back to lace today. I might cut this again, so it's a bit more, but I don't know, I'll see. So a lot of hairs just came out, but it's also to do with the cutting out that I just did. And the other thing is great about lace is you can just pinch away bits of it. It just pinches off, which is really good. Poly doesn't seem to want to do that. And another reason I didn't like this particular lace piece as well is that the knots are not well bleached at all. See there? Completely dark. Here it worked okay, but here there's no bleaching going on whatsoever. And when the lace is wet, it's a lot softer and easier to kind of mold to everything. But yeah, this is a very bad hairpiece, this lace piece I'm using right now, because the front hairline is, the knots are not bleached at all. It's terrible. Now I've learned from a previous mistake where I tried to just put bleach on while I was wearing the hairpiece. That caused a massive rash. Chemical burns. It's a combination of chemical burns and rubbing on a sort of raw area. Yeah, no wonder I took this hairpiece off, it's terrible. Look at all that. Absolutely unbleached knots. The knots must be bleached. Otherwise you've really got to send it back. I mean, it's possible to retry to bleach the bottom of them yourself, but you shouldn't have to. If you've paid for it, it has to be bleached. Problem is sending things back to get them replaced is a pain in the ass. So basically, as far as I'm concerned, because I've just sent some hair back to Lord Hair, they're on trial now. How well will they cope with a return or an exchange? Because as you know, I've completely stopped using hair companies in the past that fucked me over or slowed me down or made me wait too long. It's all about the customer service. Do they make things difficult for you to get an exchange or something else? I mean, if you're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a company, you'd expect they'd want to keep you and their reputation, right? I'm just thinking, is it a waste of $15 to just try to bleach these front knots out? Because as it stands, that is a terrible wall of hair that's happening here. It's extremely thick, isn't it? That side has been bleached by me along there, but since I've just had to cut away all of that, I didn't bleach in deep enough to affect these hairs, because as you saw, I just cut that much away, which was probably bleached along the front, but not underneath on the knots. So I'm thinking about risking a chemical burn right now by getting some bleach and not using it for 5 or 6 hair pieces, just using it for this one right now. The bottle will have that much left in it, and then I'll just have to throw it away. Though I did find a use for that bleach last time. My shower had a whole bunch of dirty grouting, and so with the excess hair bleach, I put it all over the grouting and it came out white. So yeah, the hair bleach is good for 2 things really. Hair pieces and grout. Yeah, I don't know if this hair piece is worth saving. The rest of it over here looks alright. See, I complained when the hairs came out of the poly, but now with this, I really want these to come out because it's too thick as opposed to too thin. Up here it looks more reasonable, but along the front, this clump here, it's massively thick. You can even feel the resistance when you're brushing this thick hair. Oh, incidentally, the tape marking worked perfectly, didn't it? There is no glue anywhere. It was measured, as you saw, perfectly, and then problem went away. So yeah, along here, that looks okay. There, see? But over here, it's a thick wall of hair. black dots all the way through it as well. So you can tell yourself, I'm going to give myself a brush forward look and that'll make it okay, but I can tell you right now, it's still a wall of hair with a brush forward look. Because people can still see part of your hairline. You can't just have a fucking black line across your fucking hairline, that's wrong. It doesn't look close to realistic. Now I know it, like looking at this, you can see from the bleach, it's far more effective to do that than to pluck shit out, and it takes ages, and it's still going to have black hairs all the way along whatever rigidity line I create. You have to bleach the knots to get rid of that. It's just a damn shame these ones won't bleach properly. This is from the same hairpiece, so I'd have to, though this doesn't seem the same, does it? It just seems so much less black. It seems like the hairpiece doesn't have unbleached knots. Can you see that well? Anyway, that doesn't seem as black as, or even as thick. This is lace as well. I get the feeling that this part right here is from the dead center of the hairpiece, where the hairs all come out, and probably maybe the most stitching is happening right there. I don't know, because I cut two out of my hairpiece. 2 stencils fit. So I'm just hoping after a shower, a few extra hairs are gonna fall out along the front. I'm actually hoping they'll fall out this time because of this very thick density. But yeah, I don't think I can really be bothered bleaching this right now or having the pain in the ass of chemical burns. I'm still pretty sick, so I don't feel like that sort of recovery is needed. It's a really nice sliver of moon out the window. It's really fingernaily, and just instantly I saw it in 3 dimensions. You know how when you look at the moon, you know it's a ball, but you still see just a 2-dimensional crescent or something, right? It's now getting easier for me to just look at it and go, oh wow, that's so fucking cool seeing that big ball just there in space. The moon is so much more enjoyable to look at when you know it's a sphere and you're seeing the lit part of it. It takes some concentration, but if you do it all the time, then you'll get used to just knowing it's a ball and saying, well, that's not just a crescent in the sky, that's a ball with the light shining on the side of it. It seems more, well, impressive. It's very impressive, actually. It's well lit, it's good. Okay, so what am I gonna do about this? I'm hoping that I'll just kind of casually pick away at it over time. And if it gets too frustrating, or if an event is coming up that requires me to let my hair flop around in the breeze or whatever, I'll maybe bleach it. The other thing I can do, of course, is cut my hair a bit shorter. And when it's shorter, it doesn't hang around these edges. But then I can't style it the way I want all the time. How's the join up here? Does it look better than the poly did? This perimeter join? Because I just cut a whole bunch off the front of it. I hope there's no gap back here. It really, just from the angles that I can see the mirror from my perspective, which is basically like this, that's about as far back as I can see my own. But I lean forward for your sake, so you can see everything. And also when I watch the video back, I can see, oh shit, that was much worse than I thought. Maybe I'll speak to Lord Hair about, instead of giving me poly, just give me the lace back, but make sure they're not so well bleached, and darken from number 5, which is medium brown, to number 4, which is medium dark brown. Again, it's lace. As for this mustachey thing, it was pissing me off, so I mostly shaved it off. I'll get rid of the rest of it, or just wait for the rest to grow back in.